believe that nobody gets a medal, number one, for being the first to get married among their friends. And number two, nobody gets a medal, right, for being the first to achieve something among their married friends.
Sure.
Right? So let's assume you have a couple friend, right? The moment you begin to compare yourself with your couple friends, guess what? You are going to begin to lose passion for your own marriage. You are going to begin to lose perspective about the current stage that you are in marriage. And one thing about comparison is the moment you begin to compare one thing with the other, you despise one of those things you are comparing, right? And the way it works is this: if I'm comparing you now with someone else, over time I'll begin to lose value for you, and I'll begin to take my attention off the value you have to offer. And one of the things we need to understand is this: you see, there is no human being that has all the qualities you are looking for in this world. Hi, this is Akintola Samuel.
And I'm Akintola Samuel, popularly known as OluremiSAN, your one and only senior Alaga of Nigeria.
And you're welcome to the Romance Academy. Today I want to talk to you about the 6 things you must avoid in your marriage. You see, oftentimes when people are thinking of the marriage, when they're thinking of the wedding, they are not conscious that there are pitfalls in marriage. Oftentimes people just erroneously believe that the romance, the emotions, the passion they experienced at the wedding day, at the reception, will automatically translate into the marriage. And you say that never works. You see, I think there's a phenomenon in psychology, romantic psychology, that they refer to as the honeymoon stage. That no matter how passionate you are, no matter how much in love you are, that feeling, that emotional state will last for nothing more than maximum 6 to 9 months.
Exactly.
If you are lucky, you are going to experience it for 9 months. And they've even discovered, right, with recent research, that if you have that feeling, or that, you know, because it's an hormonal rush that you're feeling, if you experience it for more than 9 months, it can literally be detrimental to your health. Right? So oftentimes people don't realize that, and they just assume that, oh, because we love each other, because we are so passionate about each other, this feeling that we feel that we have never felt before will continue in the marriage, right? So I strongly believe that to build a successful marriage, right, there are 6 things that you need to avoid. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, there are a lot of things to avoid, but these 6 major things is what you should avoid. I mean, not like you should be concerned that, oh, they have said that in this we should not do, but you should just make sure that you are avoiding these things. Number 1 I will talk about is familiarity. A lot of people, especially when you have dated somebody for a long time, or maybe when you have known somebody for a very long time, you just take them for granted. I mean, you are just too familiar with them because you're like, this one. I remember I had this friend who, when she got married, her first trimester, she was pregnant, and her husband was like, she's not going anywhere. And then she was like, this one said, I'm not going anywhere. What's wrong with this? And this one,
and, you know, she has forgotten that she's not aware of the fact that there's no longer this one or this guy. It's not my husband and it's my head.
And I was there, and at that point I wasn't even married. And then she said, what's wrong with this one? And that was like, I'm not going anywhere. So I had to go and persuade, because I know both of them. So I had to go and persuade that, please, that we just wanted to get something, wanted to get a gift. And she's the one in the best position, you know. You won't believe that particular day, they had to rush her back home. In fact, I was the one that even rushed her back home, because she was just throwing up and she was all, you know. And in my mind, I said, if only she had listened to the guy, all this would have happened. In fact, it was just the grace of God. She would have lost her pregnancy. So because she's familiar with him, we're like, why would you say I should not? She didn't even say, oh, I'm sorry. Do you understand? Because they've been used to each other. And then that familiarity, if you are not very careful, it will affect a whole lot of things. It will even affect the children. Because when your husband is saying something like, what? I beg you, go and do it. Don't mind your children. So the children will also be familiar.
Learn not to obey the dad or the mom.
So, and it's, I mean, it's not from the women, you know, it's not from the wife alone, husbands too. So the fact that you have known a woman, you have known her, you know, some people will say, I have known her since when she was
You still remember that?
I still remember when she was like this, that we've been friends since when she was, you know, and then the number of years, if you are not very careful. So you need to know where to draw the line. You know, you need to know where to draw the line, that this person is my friend, is also my husband, is also the head of the home.
You know, because the thing I've discovered about familiarity is this: You know, I think it was David who said in Psalms 41 and verse 9, he said, yes, my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, which ate of my bread has lifted up his heel against me. What that simply means is that familiarity left unchecked can make people change from friends to enemies.
Yes.
That you don't know unconsciously when you begin to move against that person.
Exactly.
When you begin to take
When
steps
your
that,
friend become a foe.
when the friend becomes a foe, right? So just like you said, I think the first thing people need to avoid in marriage is familiarity. Familiarity, and like the popular statement says, familiarity brings contempt, right? When you become too familiar, right, with your spouse, over time you begin to despise them. The sense of awe, the sense of respect, the sense of honor that you had for your spouse, you begin to lose it. And that is one thing you must never lose. You must never lose your sense of awe. You must never lose your sense of respect, your sense of value for your spouse. The second thing you need to,
okay, so I like to say that if you're single and you're watching this, if you know that you're so familiar with a guy, you can't respect him, don't get married.
Yeah, very true.
And if you know that you're so familiar with a lady that you can't respect her, you can't respect her values, don't get married to that person. Because familiarity kills it. It will even kill the marriage. Not even the relationship alone, it will kill the marriage.
Very true. Very true. All right, the second thing you need to avoid in your marriage is comparison. Comparison. Oftentimes, people compare their spouse to probably their friend's spouse, or maybe their cousin's spouse. Sometimes people also compare their own marriage, right, with other people's marriage. And you need to understand this. I believe that nobody gets a medal, number one, for being the first to get married among their friends. And number two, nobody gets a medal, right, for being the first to achieve something among their married friends. Right? So let's assume you have a couple friend and they just bought a car. And you don't have a car yet, you can't afford one yet. Right? The moment you begin to compare yourself with your couple friends, guess what? You are going to begin to lose passion for your own marriage. You are going to begin to lose perspective about the current stage that you are in marriage. And one thing about comparison is the moment you begin to compare one thing with the other, you despise one of those things you are comparing, right? And the way it works is this. If I'm comparing you now with someone else, over time, I'll begin to lose value for you. And I'll begin to take my attention off the value you have to offer. And one of the things we need to understand is this. You see, there is no human being that has all the qualities we are looking for in this world.
Very true.
There is nobody.
Very true.
You see, because even when you get married, or before you get married, you know, before you get married, actually, you believe, oh, she has everything I'm looking for. Or he's my perfect, my definition of, just like my wife says, Mr. Perfect. But that's not true. I'm not perfect anyway. I even know so many ways in which I'm imperfect, right? You see, but before you get married, because of the passion, the love, the emotions, there's just this deception that, oh, he's everything. It's a lie. The moment you get married, you realize that she can't do this. He can't do that. Right? And if you don't take your attention off that, and you begin to look at maybe your friend's wife or your friend's husband, what's going to happen is you begin to lose value and a sense of respect, right, for your own spouse.
Yes. Well, another thing to also avoid is a third-party influence.
Yeah.
That's
number
times,
3?
Yes, number 3 things to avoid is third-party influence. Because a lot of times, you know, especially with our close to our parents, and I think that happens to all these mommy or daddy's girl or mommy's boy, you know. So, I mean, before you know it, you're already modeling your own marriage after your parents. And then, I mean, it's not the same thing. They might be your role model, but it's not the same thing. And so if a third party, either parents, either family, either friends, you know, especially when people are close, even if you are a twin, do not allow the third party in that marriage. Because sometimes, when you look at it, it is the two of you. And that's why the Bible says that a man will leave his father and mother and will cleave to his wife. So, and the wife also, you must cleave to your husband. You know, so you don't allow any other person to come in between you two, because you both sign an agreement. You both sign to, you know, love each other. A
covenant relationship
together. There wasn't any third party that signed with you. You know, so you must learn to avoid third party. Whenever you have, I mean, maybe quarrel or like there is nothing that, I mean, there is nobody that can come between us. We have to sort it within ourselves. We'll talk to ourselves. So we don't allow a third party. And even if you want to, like, okay, maybe you want to talk to a third party about it, you'll have discussed it. And then that will be more or less like an advice. You know, like seeking, like counsel, like talking to a mentor or talking to like a mentor most times. because well, no matter how, when you talk to parents, my
they'll
mother
be
loves
biased,
me, and even before,
you know, no matter how much they accept your spouse,
yes,
the spouse is still an in-law.
yes,
And that's why the in-law is always there. Say son-in-law, no son. They can say, my son, but he's still son, he's still in-law, right? So so that bias, you know, perspective is going to be there.
I mean, we're all human, you know. So even if they are respecting the guy, and then the lady is always reporting, or the guy is always reporting, it will get to a point that they won't be able to handle it the way you expect them to handle it. So because we're all human, and then you begin to have, even when you are forgiving your husband or you're forgiving your wife, they may not forget.
And one thing about third-party influences, it comes in two ways: consciously. It happens consciously, unconsciously.
Yes.
Some people, and you see, another thing about third-party influence is that it doesn't only happen from family members. It doesn't only happen even from parents. It can happen from friends. It can come from friends, even from colleagues at work.
Yes, because if you are not
in the form of gist, they are just gisting.
And this thing happens because most times people feel that, oh, this person, I like this person, is that person your friend? Do you talk to that person? Because sometimes you just get carried away, and then because maybe your husband is not available, or maybe all those people that have long distance relationship, and they are used to talking to this person.
That's already an unconscious third party.
Unconsciously, that's
so before you know it, when something happens, that's the person you talk to, right? So a third party influence, I strongly believe, right, is any influence that comes from someone that you are giving more of your time, your energy, your attention, and eventually your emotions too.
Yes.
And the thing about
and the thing about third party is that attention brings affection.
Yeah.
So the minute you begin to give attention to that person, the minute
write it down.
The minute
attention brings affection. Yeah.
So the minute you begin to give attention to that person, before you know it, you just feel like talking to that person, even when that person is not in a covenant with you. Yeah. So that's why sometimes people unconsciously date people in their workplace. People date people in their. That's why you have all those office relationships.
Yeah. Office babe.
Yes. Yeah. You know, so because unconsciously you give attention to that person. Yeah. Unconsciously.
You know, this is how we even start. You start talking to the person, and before you know it, you start dressing for the person.
Yes. And before you know it, you can send it to the person. And before you know it, you are back to comparison. And then the third party influence is now, very, very, very obvious in your relationship or in your marriage. That's why some people, at the end of the day, this guy didn't get married because you are not even close to the guy, you're close to another guy. Or you're not close to the babe, you're close to another babe. You know, so I've seen, while we were on campus, I knew a lot of people that this is the person you are dating, but this is the person you're always spending time with. And at the end of the day, that other person they got married to.
Obviously.
So, so for single sisters, please, don't even mind anybody talking to you. Some people are married and they will tell you, if you're talking to you, why? Why? Are you a counselor? Even if you're a counselor, don't listen to them. Let them talk to their spouse.
Even in counseling, there is a measure of familiarity you shouldn't have with your clients. Right? That's why professionally, you're not even supposed to counsel, coach, right, or have a therapy session with someone that's a family member with a spouse. It's not ethical, right? Okay, the number 4 thing you need to avoid in your marriage is prayerlessness. Most times when people are thinking of marriage, they don't even think of prayers. You see, one thing about prayer is this. In simple terms, prayer is humanity giving permission to divinity. Humanity giving permission to divinity, right? Nothing happens on this earth until God is given a permission. Even for God to save man, he had to come in the form of a man. Nothing happens on the earth without the permission of a human being. So anytime you make prayer, something that's not that important, you don't consider it as something necessary, guess what? You are making your family a prayerless family. A prayerless family is a powerless family, right?
Write it down.
Family that doesn't pray will eventually become the enemy's prey.
That's deep.
A family that doesn't pray, P-R-A-Y, will eventually become the enemy's P-R-E-Y. You know why? The enemy is after marriages.
Exactly.
Whether it's a believer's, a Christian's marriage, a Muslim's marriage, whatever it is you believe in.
His vision is to kill, to steal, and to destroy.
Because the first marriage God instituted, the enemy came after that marriage.
Yes.
And so what makes you think, now, that was the marriage that God was the one that joined them.
Exactly. So
if the enemy came after the marriage that God joined, what makes you think it's not going to come after yours?
That's deep.
Right. So as a family, you need to ensure that you create time, right? The husband and the wife with the kids, right? If you have kids or not, right? Even I strongly believe you should even start from when you are dating.
Yes.
One of the things I remember we did when we were dating is every Wednesday we would fast and we would pray.
Yes.
Now, we didn't always meet together to pray. Not always. Because some people in the name of prayer, prayer leads to something else. It leads to a little touching, a little hugging,
a little kissing.
Eventually it leads to a little baby. So if you know you are not disciplined enough to pray together, pray virtually together. Thank God for technology, right? Pray via Zoom, pray via WhatsApp, but create time to pray together if you're single. And when you get married, don't stop that culture, right? Ensure that you keep praying together as a family. The fifth mistake people should avoid is
lack of mentoring.
Yeah.
You know, because if you have a mentor, your mentor will paint a picture of what the future looks like to you. And that's what has helped me. Of course, I mean, my parents were model to me and everything, but I have mentors who I could relate and they could relate with me.
Yeah.
I mean, with the current realities. So a lot of times people just feel that it's marriage. I like this guy. I like this.
I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing.
I can handle it myself.
Yes, I can handle it.
Would they be telling me how to run my own?
Exactly. They need to tell you how to run your own, because if they don't tell you some things, at the end of the day, you might end up being in some situation that you yourself cannot even take yourself.
Because they have even gone before you. There are things they know.
If you have a mentor, you will not make the same mistake they made.
I even think it's ultimate foolishness for you to repeat the mistakes the people ahead of you have made. It's simply being stupid.
It will interest you to know that a lot of people are making some people who abuse their parents. Oh, at so age, my mother didn't do this, my father didn't do this. At their age, they didn't have a mentor. And you too, you don't have a mentor.
You don't have a mentor. So definitely, you will only reproduce their past errors.
Exactly. So what I always tell people is that mentoring is not somebody trying to control your life. And now if they don't control, you will lose control. So you need control in your life. And when people control you, I remember when we were going to get married, I mean, we both spoke to our mentors. And my husband told me, if my mentor doesn't like you, that's the end of the story. And I told him, if my mentor doesn't like you also, that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
And because
many people will not do that. But is it my mentor that wants to marry the person?
I think
the thing about mentorship is your mentor will see sitting down what you will not see if you're on top of Burj Khalifa.
I have to share a personal experience. I remember, I was dating someone at that time. I'd even done like a mini introduction with that person. And my mentor woke up one morning and said, Demi, you can't get married to this person. And in my mind, I was wondering that why. What were you looking at? She doesn't like me.
But what people don't understand it, will the mentor go and marry that person?
Yes, exactly. And today, I'm always very grateful to God. You know, because I look at myself sometimes and I'm like, hey, thank God I listen to my mentor. Because there are some things even me I'm discovering about myself now that I know that if we were to be my ex, maybe I would have passed on. Maybe I would have gone to the other side of, because some things I do now that I just feel that, oh, maybe because of pressure of time, and then the things I do and I'm like, I can't do this, I can't do that. It will have, resort to some other things, and then before you know it, it might have gone to laying on of hands. And then before you know it,
not impartation, but
correct. So my mentor had said, he said, this guy is a good guy. Yeah. You are a good lady, but the two of you are not meant together. And it is now with the benefit of hindsight that I am understanding what they were saying those times. Because when you are in love, sometimes you are blind to a lot of things. You don't get to see. So your mentor will restore your sight. Because I remember my mentor was on my case. She was really on my case at that time, and I was always like, my mentor doesn't like me. My both mentors, and I was wondering that at the same time, the two of them would just decide not to like me. Yeah. Why? So that was why I came to the conclusion that no, it must have been God,
saying something that I'm
not saying. Yeah. And to the glory of God, I thank God that I listened to them. So you need a mentor. Yeah. You need a mentor, because a lot of people say no. I don't need this. You need a mentor.
The last thing you need to avoid is ignorance. Ignorance of how to make your marriage work. And that is what the Romance Academy is all about. Every Wednesday and every Thursday, we're going to be doing this right on this channel. I'd encourage you, if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, do that right now. And click on that bell icon, the notification. So the moment a new video drops every Wednesday and every Thursday, you're going to get notified, right? So the last thing you need to avoid is ignorance. You see, my people are destroyed, God said, because they lack knowledge. Not because the devil is at work, not because the devil is after marriages. You see, when you acquire the body of knowledge required to making your marriage work, you will begin to realize how weak the devil is. You see, I've had people say things like, it's not possible for you not to fight in your marriage, it's not possible. Well, I always say to people who care to listen, whether they believe or not, there has never been any misunderstanding in her own home, in years of marriage, that has lasted for, I always say conservatively, maybe 12 hours. But really, there has never been any that lasted for 6 hours. because there were things we discovered. We read books, right, on marriage before we got married, and you see,
we discussed it.
Yeah, we discussed it. How to handle it.
When we send ourselves messages and then we'll be discussing.
Ask questions. How do you manage anger? You know, when you are angry, how are you going to be managing it? You see, so ignorance is deadly. People say things like, what you don't know cannot kill you. That's not true.
It's not true.
What you don't know can kill you. It can murder you, bury you, pour sand on it,
and
seal your coffin.
And so, for all you care to know, that knowledge is a new good. Knowledge is a new good. So whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
Some people, you see them going for business meetings, they go for business school because they want to establish a business.
Yeah.
But in marriage, they just feel that marriage. Once I see the person
I like her, she likes me, we like each other.
No.
What is it? We are mature adults.
You need that knowledge in the business of marriage also.
Yeah, the business of marriage.
Yes.
Nothing works by itself. You need to understand that there is a body of knowledge required, right, to make anything work.
Yes.
And you see, marriage is not going to work by default. It's going to work by design. We strongly believe that you've learned one or two things, right, in today's episode. So let's go over it again. The 6 things to avoid. Number 1 is familiarity. Number 2 is comparison. Number 3 is third-party influence. Number 4, prayerlessness. Number 5 is lack of mentoring. And number 6 is ignorance of how to make your marriage work. All right, so see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe to this channel, turn on notification, and tell someone about the Romance Academy.
Catch ya.
See you later. See you in the next video.